Hey y'all, honey, let's get into this soul food Sunday dinner. Baby, I'm bringing you some honey lemon pepper fried ribs. We got black eyed peas with smoked turkey, some kale and collard greens, and you know I had to pair it with some cornbread. Honey, let's get into this. So to start out, I have a slab of St. Louis style ribs. One of my subscribers recommended this style of ribs, and you know what? I like it, okay? Nice and affordable. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get this meat out of the package, and y'all know that I am going to wash it or at least rinse it. Honey, all this blood everywhere, I just can't not do it, okay? Now, if you ain't, with the pork, of course, you can use beef instead, and you should get excellent results. Now, I'm going to go ahead and cut off this slab of like meat in the back. Now, I actually don't tend to cook this. I'll just like compost that in the garden. And then I'll cut off any excess fat, and I will also pull off the membrane as best I can. Y'all, that membrane, baby, I was struggling to pull it off. Okay, so I got off what I could, and then I put my pork in a bowl, and of course I'm going to clean my scissors, my sink, take out anything that's meaty in there, and then go ahead with the rest of my recipe. You're going to need a sharp knife so that you can go in and cut, but in between each rib. I'm going to do one bone is, where I'm going to cut right in between each one. Now, technically, you could leave two bones together if you want to, but I want more food, okay? And plus, I also want a lot of coating, so this is the best way. Near the end, you'll see that there's just a piece that is like no bone in it. Baby, just cut that in half. That's just like a little pork chop. Okay, we're going to eat that too, all right? Now, to make this meat as tender as I can get it, I'm going to salt brine it. This is going to help to tenderize the meat and also get some flavor down into the bone. I'm using 2 tablespoons of kosher salt, and then I'm going to just generously coat it all over the pork. I'm going to add some cool water, cover this, and refrigerate this overnight. Now, I'm not going to lie to y'all, I ended up not being able to film the next day, so I covered this for 2 days, but 24 hours is perfectly fine. Anywhere there is meat, baby, you must clean, okay? And that includes your counters. I usually don't show this, but some people do ask. I go in with a spray made out of Dr. Bronner soap and water, and I clean my whole counter up. Now, it's 2 days later, and I am going to drain off the brine. One thing I love about brine is that it also brings out any excess blood or anything that was left in the meat. So I love to do it when I can. To get off any excess salt, I'm just going to rinse this about 2 or 3 times. But remember, that flavor has penetrated, so you're definitely not going to get rid of it by rinsing. I'm then going to add some paper towels to the bottom of the bowl to collect any water and dry them off. To season this, I'm using some salt-free Cajun seasoning and my buddy MSG, as well as this very good garlic seasoning by Tabitha Brown. This seasoning is basically a garlic lemon pepper, so if you don't have this, use a combination of garlic powder and lemon pepper instead. I love adding mustard to pork, not only to bind the flour, but it also adds a great flavor, but it does not taste mustardy. A little bit of hot sauce is going to add a bit of vinegar, and it's not really going to put too much spice in it, so don't be afraid of it if you're not a spice lover. I'm going to mix this up and then let this sit at room temperature for about 20 minutes. While that is sitting, I'm going to prepare my batter. Now, my mama bought me this breader, and I don't typically fry that much, but she was like, girl, someone told me about it, and I want you to use it. So this is not sponsored by them. Okay, I'm just going to try out something my mom got me today. Thank you, Mom. This was giving me Tupperware with a rack vibes. So if you don't want to use a bag and you don't want to keep having to shake off the meat after you flour it, then this could be a great option for you, especially if you fry a lot. And if you do, I ain't judge you. I ain't got nothing to say about it. All right. Now into this bucket, I'm going to put some self-rising flour as well as a little bit of chicken bouillon and salt-free Cajun seasoning. That is it. Okay. You don't need to go crazy with it. If you want to add some of the lemon pepper, you can, but I didn't feel the need to. I'm going to shake this just to mix up the seasoning. All right, and then I'm going to start loading her up. Now, one thing that I did like about this is that the top was really wide, so you actually can get a lot of meat in here at one time. If you fry often, this could save you a little bit of time. So once I put a few pork riblets on the top, I went ahead and I shook it vigorously, okay? And then I also like to pat the top just to make sure any excess flour falls to the bottom. And y'all, hey, what can I say? Y'all see it, all right? It's perfectly coated. I don't have to shake off any excess. I liked it. Okay, so if you want to check this out, I'll put a link in the description box. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of my rounds of pork, and then I'm going to let the ones I've already done sit so that the coating can saturate. Go ahead and let me know in the comments if you've enjoyed this video so far, and tell me about what is your absolute favorite way to prepare ribs. And tell me, have you ever tried fried ribs before? Here is a tip. You do not need a special thermometer to measure the temperature of your oil. You can just go in there with a meat thermometer, honey, that you already have. If it's showing at least 350 degrees, then you are good to go. I'm going to put about 4 to 5 ribs in one time and use my tongs to make sure they're not sticking to the bottom. It will take about 7 to max 8 minutes for your ribs to reach an internal temperature of at least 145 degrees, which is going to be really easy to do because that bone is in the middle, and that's also cooking the meat from the inside as well. The thing about it though is that a lot of times once you have gotten it to that temperature, it is not going to be super crispy. However, if you just keep cooking the rib for longer and longer and longer, then it's going to dry out and also get tough. So I'm going to show you a method on how you can make sure you get that crunchy skin, but also have a juicy rib. In between batches, I am going to clear out any of the flour debris, and if you like making gravy, you can save that because it's not burnt at all, but it is really good tasting, okay? Now look at that. You see how the skin is a little bit soft, okay? You want that coating to be crunchier. The only one that's pretty crunchy is this tiny one, and that's just because it was small and there was a ton of fat on it. So what I'm going to do is crank up that temperature, and I'm going to double fry. You can actually crowd the oil at this point because remember, they're already cooked. You seriously only need to double fry for about 30 seconds. That's all it takes in order to get that crunchy coating. If you like that tip, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Look at this. Okay, you can see the coating is crunchy. Baby, this is good, and you can have them just like this. But we're going to step this up, and we're going to add a delicious honey lemon pepper coating. I melted about 2 tablespoons of butter. Into that, I'm adding 3 tablespoons of honey as well as the zest of 1 lemon. Don't you dare add that lemon juice or your coating is going to get soggy. Trust me, all right? Then I'm going to brush this mixture all over the ribs. And honey, let me tell you, there is nothing like a lemon pepper fried rib. It is absolutely delicious, and you can see and hear the crunch. Let me know if you're going to make this recipe. Where are the people at that still love some old school black eyed peas? Baby, I love them. They're so delicious. And we're going to start off with a smoked turkey wing and just 1 piece of fat back if you play with the pork. Okay, if you don't, just knock it on out and maybe add a tablespoon of butter. I'm going to cover this wing with water and let this simmer for about 45 minutes so it can get tender. I like to give this a jump start on the black eyed peas. Then I'm going in with some pepper, a little bit of salt-free Cajun seasoning, and a bit of chicken bouillon. I'm also adding a bay leaf and fresh thyme and 2 bags of frozen black eyed peas. For a great taste and color, I load mine down with different color bell peppers as well as some onion. You could also throw in some celery, but I didn't have that today. And I'm also going to add about 4 cloves of garlic and mix this well. Then I'm going to cover this and let this come to a boil. That's going to take about 10 minutes. After that, I'm going to mix this up, and then I'm going to cut the heat down and put this on a simmer and leave the top cracked because I want the juice to reduce so that this can get a little bit thick. I'm then going to let this simmer for about 1 hour and 15 minutes, but you can do this until this is as tender as you like. Let me know if you're going to try this recipe. Kale and cabbage really mix together to form a delicious southern side dish. So I'm going to show you how you can cook them together, and they're going to be tender and delicious and super flavorful. So first I'm starting out with a small cabbage because I'm not cooking so much today, and I'm going to use my knife to cut out that core, and then I'll just take my hand and pop it straight on out. I'm going to cut the cabbage to about 1/4 of an inch, somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 inch thickness. It really just depends on how thick you like your cabbage to be. Into my pan, I'm going to add some olive oil as well as some butter and a little bit of fat back. Then I'm putting in some onion and just a touch of thyme. Now, if you don't have fresh thyme, you can put about a pinch of dried thyme. This is just for a subtle herby flavor, but you can leave it out. After it's sauteed for about 2 minutes, I'm then going to add in 2 cloves of garlic and my chopped up kale. I'm going to put that in first, okay, because I find that kale is a bit tougher than cabbage. So I'm going to let this cook on medium-low heat for about 10 minutes. It really does need that jump start in my opinion. Then I'm going to go in with all of my cabbage. This looks like so much, but you all know this is going to cook down. I'm going to season this with some garlic butter seasoning, whichever one you like, and I'm going to cover this and allow this to cook for about 10 minutes. Then I'm going to mix everything together, and I'm also going to season again with a little bit of sugar, chicken bouillon, and salt-free Cajun seasoning, and a little bit of crushed red pepper flakes. My pan was getting a little dry, so I added a touch of water, and I took out that thyme, and I let this cook for about 5 minutes until it was tender, but it was not mushy. This is one of my favorite ways to make a kale and cabbage side dish. It's delicious. It doesn't need any meat because there's so much meat that we have in the rest of the meal. Let me know if you guys are going to try this recipe. You all know that I love you and Jesus loves you, and I'll see you next time in Kamira's Kitchen. Goodbye and God bless.